Alright punks, we are back with another vlog here. This is the first one back at our home casino of Parx in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I am happy to announce that I have finally gotten permission to film at Parx. Thank you to all the great staff at Parx for coming on board and realizing that this is the best way to promote the room, best way to promote the vlog. That was the biggest question I've been getting, is why don't you show your hole cards? Now I can. So with that being said, don't forget, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Really helps out the channel a lot. We're growing great, but we could always use your support too. And let's get to some hands. The first hand of note we played this session, we are in the hijack and we look down at ace-9 offsuit. A middle position player limps and we open to $20. We see calls from the cutoff and the big blind and a fold from the middle position player. 67 in the pot and we go to a flop of 6-7-4 with the 6-7 of spades. We miss, but when the big blind checks to us, we size up to $30 to try and steal the pot. The cutoff and the big blind aren't ready to throw in the towel yet and they both call. 157 in the pot, we see a turn of the 8 of clubs. We improve to an open ender here, and now the big blind donk leads into us for $65. We may still have the best hand here, and we do have a pretty strong draw with the open ender. The big blind did not show any aggression so far in the hand, and we feel that it's just best to call here and see if we can get a good river card. With 287 in the pot, we get one of those good river cards with the ace of diamonds. Big blind checks to us, and we think of going for thin value here, but it's very unlikely that we're going to get called by a weaker hand, and there's a good chance that we can get check raised off the pot. With that in mind, we just check back to realize our equity, and we show our river pair and the villain folds, and we take down a nice one here to start off the session. Two hands later, we are on the button, and we look down at pocket aces. Woohoo! The low jack makes it $15 to go. Cutoff calls the $15, but that isn't enough for us, so I make it $50, hoping to get calls from both the low jack and the cutoff. Unfortunately, after the low jack calls, the cutoff folds. With 122 in the pot, we see a flop heads up of 9-4-4 with the 9-4 of hearts. When the low jack checks to us, we continue for about a half pot size bet of $65, figuring the low jack had to have something good to continue with pre-flop. To my surprise, the low jack folds, and we scoop another pot rather easily. The very next hand, we think the run good is just continuing on when we're in the cutoff and we look down at pocket queens. The player in middle position bumps it up to $20, and when it gets to me, I 3-bet to $80. When it folds back around to the woman in middle position, she 4-bets me to $250. This is an ultra strong move, as you rarely see a 4-bet in 2-5, and when you do, it usually means aces or kings at the worst. We consider folding, but she has us covered, and I'm sitting around 1100 effective. Since we've been running so good, we decide to see a flop, and we call. With 507 in the pot, we see a flop of King, Queen, 4, rainbow. This is exactly the scenario we were looking for when we called. As expected, the middle position player immediately leads out for $250. I pause for a moment and double check that she has me covered, and then I make a mistake and I shove here for $850. I'm assuming that she's committed her stack already and that she's going to call off with an overpair. When she doesn't instantly call, I can rule out pocket kings, so I start rooting for a call in my head. She does eventually fold here.
Wrong, sir. Wrong. You get nothing.
And I let her off the hook. I really think that this was a bad shove for me. I just got a little excited and wasn't thinking it through, because really the only hands that can call me here are pocket kings and pocket aces. Pocket kings have me dominated. Pocket aces, I should just be calling here and letting her hang herself when she bets out on the turn and then maybe spring the trap there. But you got to live and learn, and this is a lesson in not getting max value when we flop a huge hand. A short time later, we are on the button and look down at King, Queen of spades. Under the gun +1 limps, and I make it $20 to go. Big blind and under the gun 1 call. With $62 in the pot, we see a flop of Queen 8-5 with the 8-5 of clubs. Top pair is good, but unfortunately the 8 and the 5 are the right color but wrong shape. When it checks to me, I continue for $35, only to see both players fold. Guess they didn't really like this flop either, so we pick up a little one and move along. About 2 orbits later, we are under the gun and we look down at pocket sixes. We decide to limp here. Under the gun +1 also limps, and then a middle position player raises to $35. The low jack calls and I call. The under the gun +1 folds. With 117 in the pot, we see a flop of 5 queen 7. Not much here, but a backdoor draw for us, so we check the middle position player, who leads for $50. Low jack folds, and we call since we do beat half the board here. With 217 in the pot, we see the 8 of clubs. Now with a pair and an open ender, we donk lead for 125. Middle position player is not interested any longer and quickly folds, and we scoop up this pot. Several orbits later, we are on the button with ace-queen offsuit. Under the gun limps, a middle position player makes it $40 to go, which is a little out of character for them because they've been a very passive and tight player. So when it gets to us, we contemplate a 3-bet here, but decide on just a call since this player raising is a little bit of a red flag that they must have a pretty strong hand. Big blind and under the gun player call as well. With 162 in the pot, we see a flop 4 ways of ace 9-4. When it checks to me, I take the lead here, even though I'm still a little concerned about the middle position player, and I lead out for about half pot of $70. This proves to be too much when all 3 players fold, but we're able to take down a decent little pot here without a fight. Kind of the story of the night, a lot of flop bets just getting through and picking up small pots. The straddle is on this hand, and we are on the button again. This time we look down at ace-4 of hearts. Middle position player calls, and we bump it up to $65. Only the big blind calls us. We are heads up to a flop now with 152 in the pot. That flop is 9-2-3 rainbow. We do flop a gut shot to the wheel and a backdoor flush draw. When the big blind checks to us, we take a stab for a C bet of $85. The big blind fairly quickly calls, and we're off to turn with 322 in the pot. That turn is the 10 of clubs. This is when the big blind decides to lead out for $215. It's a very strange line here. We do not have any choice but to fold. The villain then shows us the jack of hearts. So either he maybe had pocket jacks, maybe a hand like jack queen, which he turned into a bluff with the open ender. Either way, we were drawing pretty thin to maybe only a 5, maybe an ace. But doesn't matter because they got too aggressive and we got away. It is getting late and we are getting ready to wrap up this session for the night. And we look down at ace-10 offsuit under the gun +1 and decide to limp. Middle position and cutoff also limp, and then the button raises to $35. We call, assuming both players behind us will also call, but only the middle position player calls and the cutoff folds. With 117 in the pot, we go to a flop of ace queen 10 with the queen 10 of hearts. Top and bottom pair on a very well coordinated board. It's not ideal, but it's not bad either. We decide to check for pot control. Middle position player also checks, and the button C bets for $60. We call, and the middle position player folds. Now with 237 in the pot, we see the jack of diamonds on the turn. This brings the second flush draw and a 4-liner to the king, so we check only to get a check back from the button. The river brings the 9 of diamonds. The front door flush comes in, but with a check on the turn, I don't put the button on too strong a hand here. I decide to go for some value here and bet out $100. The villain tank calls. We assume we're good until the button turns over ace queen for a flop 2 pair that are better than our flop 2 pair. Luckily, it was a very wet board and a coordinated board, and I think I lost the minimum here. It could have been much worse, but I'm just happy that I did go for some thin value there on the river, thinking that he wouldn't have checked back a hand as strong as 2 pair there when I checked the turn, but he did, and we paid him off. But luckily it was not that bad. For the last hand of the night, we are in the small blind and we look down at pocket sixes. The under the gun straddle is on. Middle position, hijack, cutoff, big blind, and I all call, and the under the gun player checks his option. With $60 in the pot, we go to a flop of 4-4 deuce rainbow. It checks to the middle position player, who bets out for $35. When it folds to us, we think about it for a minute, and we really don't have any reason to believe that this player has us beat at this point, so we decide to make the call. And with $130 in the pot, we see a turn of the 10 of hearts. We check again and are delighted when the hijack checks back. The river brings the queen of diamonds. And I feel that this is a pretty good card to lead out on, as I still have all the fours in my range, plus some overcards. So I decide to lead out for $55 here. And when it gets to the middle position player, they think about it for a minute, and eventually they make a fold. And I'm able to take down another little pot for the night and call it an evening. All right, punks. We were into this session for $1,000. We were out for $13.12, so we were $3.12 to the good side. Not a bad session, not a great one, but a win is a win, and we keep that run good going. Also, remember, like, subscribe, really helps out the channel a lot. The channel's been growing great. I'm really appreciative of all the support I've gotten from you guys so far, so let's keep it going. Also, remember, I'm doing a giveaway when we hit 500 subscribers. I'm going to give away 5 Poker Punx hoodies, 5 Poker Punx card protectors, so you could be the one that wins when we hit 500. Or if you want one anyway and you don't want to wait, you can email me at pokerpunx@gmail.com for details on ordering some. Gotten a couple orders so far and I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. And remember, always run it up the punks.